Hi there, my name is Matt Henlon. I'm a longtime software developer who's worked on a number of platforms and in a variety of environments. Are you ready to dig into some security features? A pretty common complaint about working on a different platform is just, why doesn't it work the way I'm used to? macOS has a few safety measures, some of which make your life far easier, some of which, as a developer, you might find yourself having to work around. The goal is to expose them to you so you won't be at a loss when it seems like you're prevented from doing something you want to do. As you might know, macOS has the App Store from which you can get your apps. You know that the app binaries have been signed, so there's no code in there that shouldn't be. The apps are sandboxed, so they won't wreak havoc unintentionally on your machine. It's a pretty good, trustworthy source to get your apps from. From a developer's point of view, it makes distribution way easier, on me anyway. But you can install your apps from other sources. You just need to set up the security preferences, and we'll take a look at that today. This is down to a feature called Trusted Source, or you might find it referred to as Gatekeeper if you're searching this stuff up, trying to work your way around it. So first, let's download an app. I've already downloaded LibreOffice as an example. So I'm going to go to my Downloads folder. I have the disk image here. I'm going to open this up and I'll drag the package to my Applications folder. Once that's copied over, I'm just going to use Command-Shift-A to jump to my Applications directory, and I'm going to go down and find LibreOffice. I can also just tap in here and start typing the first few letters of the name. I can open LibreOffice by hitting Command-O to open it. I can also have double tapped on it. I'm going to get presented with the dialog that asks me, am I sure I want to open it? I've downloaded it from the internet. macOS was able to check the integrity of the app because the developer signed it. So I can be pretty sure that there's no malicious code in there or nothing that the developers didn't intend to be in there anyway. So I'll hit open. I'll also get some notifications if the app is installing extra pieces it might need to function or extra functionality it wants to add, specifically things like Spotlight Importer, so I'm able to index the content that I'm creating with LibreOffice. And as it mentions, I can turn on and off this kind of behavior, in this case in the login items and extensions preference, and I can work away in LibreOffice. This is thanks to a setting that I have in my privacy and security settings. And if I scroll all the way to the bottom in this preference, we'll see that I have it set to allow apps from the App Store and from known developers. That just means that they've signed the app binary, which means that they have a developer account with Apple. But what happens if I want to install an app that I know is a good app that hasn't been signed? With macOS, especially as the years have gone on, it's gotten a little bit more difficult to do that. There are a few more hoops to jump through, all in the name of making sure your system stays safe and secure. For example, I have this demo app, this unsigned app here that I know is a good app. There's nothing malicious in the code because I've written it myself, but I didn't sign it with my developer account or anything else. So when I double click this app to launch it, I get a message that says this app is not open because it couldn't verify the integrity of it. So I have two options. I can either move it to the trash or I can say done. I don't have the option to open it. Now, if this happens to you and you know that this is a valid app and there's no security issues with it, you can go back to the privacy and security settings, and you'll note that I have a new item here in the settings pane, and I can say open anyway. It'll give me another dialog saying, look, I can't verify this, but it will give me the option to open anyway, in addition to move to the trash or done. So I'll say open anyway. One last verification check, I can either enter in an admin password or I can use Touch ID, and then I get my app launched. Now this seems like a lot of work for an app that doesn't really do a whole lot, but you can imagine that you might have an app from a developer friend of yours or some other app that you use all the time where it's not signed for a perfectly valid reason and you need to use this app every day. Now that I've gone and authorized this app as a valid app, I'm not going to have any issues opening it from now on. And if you find yourself having to do this a lot, you can turn this behavior off. I don't recommend it, but if you go to terminal, you can use the command sudo sp control master disable, and that will turn off Gatekeeper. so that this special protection won't happen every single time you want to open an app. Again, the solution to working with security isn't necessarily to turn it off entirely. It's more common to inspect downloaded apps with another command to see if the app's been quarantined or not. Let me show you what I mean. So now I have this demo app unsigned. I can actually inspect its extended attributes by using the XATTR command, and it's on my desktop. So I'm going to use the tilde because it's in my home desktop, and it's called demo unsigned app. Because we get a lot of info about the security of this application and other notes about it. This is the main one that we're concerned with, this com.apple.quarantine. That's going to let Gatekeeper, trusted source, know that this app is trusted and this is a valid app that we can open. Now, I have another copy of this app that I've downloaded that hasn't been blessed by the trusted source system just yet. So if I hide that one for a second, I'm going to go to my downloads folder and have a look. I have this demo unsigned app. I can run the same thing with the extra attributes command on my demo unsigned app. And if I pull them up both side by side, I can see that we have different values for the two different files. This is the one that hasn't been blessed, and this is the one that has. And you can see these first four characters of the property differ in the two different cases. That's what lets Gatekeeper know if it's able to be opened or not. So if I go to try to open that same file, in fact, I'm going to use the command line. I'm going to get those same options that I had before. Either move it to the trash or just be done with trying to open it. Now what I can do is I can remove that com.apple.quarantine extended attribute from the file. So I can do something like this. So once I remove that attribute, I'm actually going to go list them again. You can see it's a bit different looking list. And if I open up demo unsigned app now, you can see that my app opens just fine. I didn't have any warnings or any security dialogues. So that's another way to work around without the brute force sledgehammer of doing something like changing the way Gatekeeper behaves and disabling it altogether. Extended attributes also have some other interesting features. So it's worth diving into how things are stored in the Finder on macOS. In addition to Gatekeeper, Apple has implemented this technology called System Integrity Protection, or rootless, you might find on the internet. This is to make it more difficult for malware to infect key system files. By and large, this operates under the hood and we don't have to think about it too much. But as developers, sometimes we need to modify files that most people don't. And some of these files might be in protected locations like /system. So there is a way to disable it. I'd recommend only doing it temporarily if possible. If you reboot your Mac by going up to the Apple menu and choosing restart, hold down Command R while it's starting up, you'll put the Mac into recovery mode. In recovery mode, you have the option to open up a terminal, and inside terminal, you can type in the command csrutil disable ;reboot. That will turn off system integrity protection, reboot the Mac. You can perform whatever operations you need to perform or make whatever changes you need to. And then I highly recommend, once you've done that, rebooting the Mac again, going into recovery mode by holding down Command R, opening up a terminal and typing csrutil enable ;reboot, and you'll be good to go. In the interest of keeping you aware of what apps have control to what features of your Mac, macOS will prompt you to allow apps access to different capabilities. This includes things like your contacts, your calendar, microphone, video camera, your location, and more. If you ever accidentally allow or disallow something to have access to a capability you don't want it to have anymore, or you would like to add that capability to the app, you can always go to that privacy and security setting. So I'm going to go back there. We can see the different capabilities we can give apps access to. Things like calendars, location services, files and folders, full disk access. One place where this comes in really handy, especially for me, is in the case of online meeting apps like Zoom or WebEx or Teams, when I need to share my screen. I either try to test it out ahead of time, or I opt not to restart the app if I do have to give it permission midway through, mid-meeting. And for many things, it'll just work. But I would need to go down to turn on something like screen and system recording. Otherwise, those capabilities won't be given to those apps. If you are using another developer tool, like Terminal or VS Code or Xcode, you can also go into the developer tools setting in here. This is where we can choose apps that will run outside of the normal Gatekeeper protocols, allowing them that bit more freedom, but also being aware then that we may accidentally overwrite some fairly important files. When it comes to security, of course, many of our modern machines will have different biometric sensors, whether it's Face ID or Touch ID. So in the Touch ID and password settings, this is where we can configure different fingerprints to unlock our laptops. And if you have an Apple Watch, this is where you can also set your Apple Watch to automatically unlock your Mac when you approach. I happen to love this feature because it just saves me a bit of time. My Mac is ready to go as soon as I sit down, thanks to my watch just having a quick chat with the laptop. Depending on your version of macOS, you may find your passwords in the system settings, but in the very latest, there is a new passwords app that store all of your passwords to be auto-filled into different web pages you're visiting, to integrate with apps, and to sync across your platform. So if you enter in your password on your Mac, it'll sync to your iPhone or your iPad, allowing you to seamlessly log into all these services you use across all your devices. Now, you don't have to just use the built-in passwords app. I tend to because I have so much stuff syncing across iCloud. It just fits my workflow. But if you use something like LastPass or 1Password, those will work really well, especially if you have a variety of devices that you're using. It could be Android, could be Windows, it could be Linux. LastPass and 1Password, those cross-platform password managers, are great options for you to use. In the password app, we can now also create new passwords. And when you tap on the password field, it'll give you the option to generate stronger passwords. Now, we talked previously about macOS being Unix under the hood. So you can do things like manage users and groups on the system. And as a developer, I know I will often have a test account or two, connect to a network account server, manage permissions or guests on my system so that I make sure my work and my personal data don't mix, and then they also don't compromise one another. If we look at users and groups, we can add users and give them different permissions. We can make them a sharing only user, we can make them a standard user, or give them administrator privileges. And like in Unix systems you'd be used to, that'll give you a home directory with your own sandbox to play in. As developers, sometimes we have to do things that circumvent some of the security of our machines. But the tips and insights here should let us get our work done with a minimum of pain, while also protecting us from a host of threats in the ordinary cases. With these security measures in mind, you'll be in a good place to just keep on with the stuff that matters to you, and you'll have the ability to get around any issues that might pop up. See you soon.